Hey everyone, I'm Dan. I'm co-founder at Recap, and today I'm going to walk you through how to calculate your Celsius tax write-off with Recap. So a bit of a backstory, Recap and our accountant partners, Andersen, and a number of individuals from the Creditors UK working tax group, we've been working together now for the past 9 months in order to help Celsius creditors claim their tax write-off. Now, claiming a tax write-off when it comes to being involved in a US Chapter 11 bankruptcy is not straightforward, particularly when it involves crypto assets. So with our partners, we've come up with a tax position, and we've basically baked that tax position into Recap and provided a set of configuration that you can use to seamlessly generate your tax write-off and hopefully bring to a close this whole Celsius situation. Now, before we get started, I'm just going to say that I am not a tax advisor. Tax advice. I am a co-founder and under CEO of a cryptocurrency software solution that just happens to have put our tax position into the software, and it's up to you if you want to use it. And in fact, we highly recommend that you use this solution in collaboration with your accountant or tax advisor. So, how does the solution work? So you can see here that I've loaded a Celsius account into Recap. So from prior to the Celsius Chapter 11 process, or even throughout the Chapter 11 process, you were able to download your Celsius transaction history in the form of a CSV. And basically you can come into Recap, you can click Exchange CSV file, Celsius, and then you can then upload your Exchange CSV into Recap. Alternatively, if you've been signed up to Recap for a while, you may have connected your Celsius API connection to Recap, and your Celsius account is probably still showing in Recap, but in an offline mode, because we no longer have a direct connection to the exchange. In either case, we can now calculate your Celsius tax write-off. So if we click the account card, we then head into settings. We can now click apply bankruptcy rules. And we've got a number of configurations that you can set in here which allow us to calculate your write-off and also chargeable gains as a result of your distribution. So I'm just going to walk you through them without going into too much detail around the tax position. If you want to understand our tax position, it's on our blog. We have a whole guide around it, and we've got some opinion there from our accountant partners. And okay, so the first thing we're going to set is the beneficial ownership transfer date. So the whole tax write-off solution all centers around this concept of beneficial ownership. When did you lose ownership of your assets? Now, a lot of people in our network agree that the 15th of April 2022 is a key date, because that is when Celsius released version 8 of their terms of service, and within that terms of service document there was reference in there to you losing all rights and title to your assets. Now, if you agree that that date is when you lost access to your assets and that they became Celsius's, you can set that here. Other potential dates might be the petition date of the bankruptcy, but it's up to you to work out when you lost ownership of your crypto assets. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set the configuration for the write-off date. So when you set your beneficial ownership transfer date, what we do behind the scenes is we take all the balances that you held on Celsius at that time and we exchange them, we trade them for a series of contractual rights. So as an example, if you had 1 Bitcoin on Celsius and then beneficial ownership was transferred to Celsius, we create a tax disposal for your Bitcoin, but you acquire a Bitcoin right. That right allows you to reclaim your Bitcoin. And what we're saying is, on the write-off date, when did those rights become worthless? And we think the key date here is the petition date. This is when Celsius went into Chapter 11, and the contract that you had with Celsius related to terms of service has been voided. You can no longer reclaim your assets. They are trapped within the Chapter 11 US bankruptcy code process. So this is where we would basically generate your tax loss. The next thing we need to consider is loans. So if you took out a series of collateralized loans, did you lose beneficial ownership on deposit, as soon as that collateral hit Celsius, or did you lose beneficial ownership on the beneficial ownership transfer date? Now, most individuals will have got separate commercial loan agreements when they took out a loan. Some people may have had sale and repurchase agreements, but you were party to the commercial agreements, but also the terms of service of the exchange. And there was a lot of conflicting terms within those two contracts. So you need to select which one is relevant for you. The next thing is distributions. Here you need to enter in all of your cryptocurrency distributions that you've received. For the majority of people in the UK, you will have got your distributions to your Coinbase account. So you need to go through your transaction history. You need to filter your transaction history by deposits, and you need to type in exactly the distributions that you received from the bankruptcy. Now, again, in the UK, most people will have got Bitcoin, Ethereum, and you may also have received some Ionic digital shares. So you need to type in exactly how many of these you've received. Be careful as well, because some people have received 2 rounds of distributions. If you're a loans customer, you will have received 2 lots of Bitcoin and Ethereum and 1 lot of Ionic digital shares. And the next thing we need to type in is any clawbacks. So if you withdrew assets on the Celsius exchange 90 days prior to them going bankrupt, then you need to declare here if you've paid any settlement as a result of a clawback, and we'll basically factor this in as a chargeable loss against any distributions that you're paying tax on. The final thing, you'll need to view our disclaimer and agree it, and also tick the box in order to save these bankruptcy settings. Again, we are not tax advisors. We've just built some configuration around how you can use this to align with our tax position that we have with our accountant partners. But you need to tick that box in order to move forward. Once we've done that, you can see my Celsius account has now gone to 0. Look on the accounts page. My account has been fully written off. I'm just going to quickly go through the transactions and what has happened. So the first thing that we set was the beneficial ownership change date. And we said that the 15th of April 22 was the date that was most relevant. So this is where this particular customer, they had over 6 Bitcoins on the exchange. And on the beneficial ownership transfer date, those 6 Bitcoin got traded for a Bitcoin right. So if we look on the tax tab, this has actually realized a huge gain for this customer, which is obviously not ideal. Again, the customer had there's some USDC on the exchange. That's been exchanged for a right. So the whole principle behind this is, you could swap your 6.1 BTC right and always get your Bitcoin back. However, when we get up to the petition date, this is where the terms of service that you have with Celsius become almost null and void. Your contractual rights no longer allow you to reclaim your Bitcoin. So this is where we're writing these assets off for 0. So if we look on the tax tab, we're actually selling the 6.13 Bitcoin right for 0. And it's up to you if you want to file this as a negligible value claim or if this is a genuine disposal for zero. So the good thing about capitalizing these losses is that's obviously going to offset the losses from the gains when you lost beneficial ownership. And then finally, the last thing we need to consider is the bankruptcy distributions. So this is where the bankruptcy has agreed a disbursement, a distribution, and that distribution is actually subject to capital gains tax. You pay tax on distributions based on our tax advice. And then we've withdrawn that distribution, and this is where you'll receive a corresponding deposit into your Coinbase account. And we've done this with Ethereum, and we've also done it with the shares as well. Many of you will have your shares custodied in a US broker-dealer account until the shares go public, where you can then define a transfer agent to move them. We also have a bankruptcy clawback transaction in here, so if you were subject to a clawback, the amount that you claim in here will offset any bankruptcy distributions you pay tax on as well. So the net result of all of this is to come up with an equitable tax position. If we have a look at the tax tab, you can now see that I have a tax write-off in 2022-2023, and in 2024-2025 I actually have a gain as a result of receiving some distributions. So that's just a quick overview of exactly how our settings work for bankruptcy at Celsius. We are looking at rolling this out to other crypto bankruptcies like FTX. We're just waiting for some clarity on what the plan is going to be. We also have some nuances around 2 different jurisdictions having bankruptcies and the ability for you to opt into one of those. But we would like to roll this out to other exchanges in the not too distant future. Cool. Thank you for your time, and if you've got any questions, you can always contact us through in-app support. Thank you.